Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the chart of Charles Bukowski, writer, poet, um, all all round American literary, I don't know, classic, I guess. He's always being quoted, um, often referenced in music. So yeah, this is his chart. He was born in Germany, came here. His family emigrated to the United States when he was like 3. Um, and he had a difficult childhood. But let's look at that. So his sun is in Leo, conjunct Jupiter, in conjuncting the fifth house quadrant, fourth whole sign house, fifth quadrant. And so the sun is dignified in Leo. It's very creative sun, very confident. In the fifth house, it's excellently placed because that is Leo's original house. That means it's I mean, technically the fifth house is good because it's trine by sign to the ascendant. Here we don't really have a trine. It's a little more, well, not quite square by sign, but anyway. So it is pulling in some fourth house because it's fourth whole sign house, but either way, fifth whole sign house is really great for creativity, for entertainment, for education, for just fun. It's a very, confident house, good house for all creative things. And conjunct Jupiter, you don't often see this, but sometimes you do. It's one of the less common sun conjunctions, but it makes a person have a very big personality. The Jupiter suffers because when it's this close, it's considered combust. So some of their philosophy, some of their faith, some of their enthusiasm for life can get burnt up at times. But at the same time, that the Jupiterian qualities becoming infused in the sun. So they themselves become very philosophical, perhaps religious. Sometimes I don't think Charles Bukowski was too religious, but philosophical definitely. You can see Jupiter really a major part of who he was and what he stood for. And just to demonstrate that, I'm going to share the Wikipedia because there's some interesting things. On his gravestone, it says, what does it say? Don't try. And this kind of seems like an odd thing to say, but it's when you hear the full quote about it, it's actually pretty cool. Bukowski explained the phrase in 1963 letter to John William Corrington. Somebody at one of these places asked me, "What do you do? How do you write, create?" "You don't," I told them. "You don't try. That's very important, not to try. Either for Cadillac's creation or immortality. You wait, and if nothing happens, you wait some more. It's like a bug high on the wall. You wait for it to come to you. When it gets in close enough, you reach out, slap it, kill it. Or if you like its looks, you make a pet out of it." So that is the Jupiter and Leo. Not uncommon for artists or writers to have a lot of Leo placements. Leo is very creative, very big and bold and bright and shiny. What's interesting is that he claims to have had a very difficult childhood, and his father beat him regularly, like a few times a week, for no apparent reason. And we can see that here with Pluto in Cancer, conjunct the IC. It's in the third whole sign house, but it is making a semi-square to the sun. This red line with this sun symbol means semi-square. That's half square. And it has a similar quality to a square. And so we can see some sort of abuse relating to his father and his early childhood. That's also Pluto is also square Chiron, and Chiron is a square and a half. You see, because one square, half square from the sun. So that's also a difficult aspect. So Chiron, Pluto, and the sun shows an abusive situation for sure, relating to his ego, his personality, his father, his childhood. Also, he had an accent when he was young. He was born in Germany, and that was probably his original language. And then he came to America, and then he developed terrible acne as a young kid, and he was shy and introspective. I mean, look at his moon. It's a relatively not a new moon, but it wasn't a new moon that long ago. From 30 days, a little over 30 days before. No, not 30 days. A few days. Sorry. Yeah, it takes 2.5 days for the moon to go through a sign. So anyway, it's 2.5 days ago. It was a new moon. So moon is he's very introspective. In other words, with a moon phase like this, because the moon's not very bright during new moons. People born during new moons or close to it are more quiet, introspective, deep-natured. Generally, doesn't mean they're not going to party, but they do have that quality. Versus full moon being very big and bright and out there and social and all that. There can be other factors, but generally that would be part of it. So he did have this quiet, introspective, shy nature, and had a difficult childhood. Moon actually has no aspects, which is really interesting. It is in its own triplicity, so that's good. It's in Virgo, but it's also 29th degree. Anything that's on the 29th degree is potentially, well, it's unstable. That's what you could say. Very unstable. Not very well balanced, although Virgo moon tends to be balanced and it's about to move into Libra. So in a certain way, yeah, very literary, very critical. Most of his planets tend to be concentrated in Leo and Virgo. So the creative and the editorial. Virgo being the editorial, critical, literary, pedantic sign that will just, try and perfect everything, and it's not going to want anything out of place. And Leo being much more the creative, original, life-giving force in his chart. He was a heavy drinker. I'm not sure if he got into other drugs or not, but alcohol and cigarettes definitely played a big part. And we can look to, his early childhood abuse, which he credited. He said definitely helped him become a better writer because I don't know, something about undeserved pain taught him how to write, I guess, something like that. Yeah, no real strong connection between the sun and the moon. Mercury's the dispositor, conjunct Neptune in fourth quadrant, fourth whole sign. So this is really fourth house, right? And moon is ruling the IC cusp. The sun is ruling the fourth whole sign house. And both of these are in a similar position. Moon is, I guess, coming up on the sixth house cusp, even though sixth house cusp is in Libra. It's still influencing the sixth house, but also the fifth house. And the sixth house would be much more of that critical energy relating to, Virgo originally, but service to others, mundane daily life. But yeah, just getting down to work, working hard, and being very I guess, Virgo-ish about his work. Hard work, literary, you know, nose to the grindstone, just doing the daily deeds, tasks. And yeah, this Mercury conjunct Neptune, that's also excellent for writing because it's in Leo. It's in the fourth house, and fourth house not only represents childhood and home, mother, parents, it also represents what we love in a similar way that as the moon, because it is home is where the heart is. And so if planets are sitting at home, there's a lot of heart there. There's a lot of feeling. And so for any artist type, fourth house can be very strong, powerful place because that's where they get their deep feeling, a lot of deep feelings from. Love, contentment, Cancerian themes, nourishment. So, and I think that's why he was one of the reasons why he was often referenced in music, because of the depth of feeling that comes from the fourth house, the emotionality. It's quite nice and expressed through Leo. That's good. And then Neptune is very imaginative. Hemingway had his Mercury in Leo. Forget what else, but I know that Mercury in Leo. And we ascendant is in Taurus with the South Node conjunct the ascendant. So with South Node conjunct the ascendant, we know that he's very, as a young person, he's going to be very into himself. Very, I don't want to say self-obsessed, but just alone, tendency to be alone, independent, and developing the individuality. Of course, as he gets older, it's going to switch to the North Node in the seventh house. And there's a lot of confidence that can come from South Node conjunct the ascendant, because you really know yourself. You really know your ascendant when the South Node is conjunct the ascendant. I kind of have the opposite position. North Node in Scorpio in the first house, and that's a little different. But yeah, he's probably going to spend a lot of alone time in the first half of his life. And then also Venus is going to be activated. Venus is his ascendant lord, and it's not in good dignity here. It's debilitated, and it's conjunct Saturn. So this is a very hard, cold Venus, very picky, very critical. Great for, the Virgo editorial quality of being able to pick out the winners from the losers, the good from the bad, cut and paste, just doing the Virgo thing of being very, precise and picking the winners. And that's Virgo is excellent at that. But very picky, especially with his, Venus and Virgo, like his taste in women, his preference. He's just going to be very exacting, and he's not just going to settle for this or that or the other, whether it's a girlfriend or his art, his creations, his writing, his poetry, his stories. It's going to be very picky, especially with Saturn here. It's going to make him very exacting, very hard. Saturn tends to crystallize things and make it hard. So the level of artistry and refinement is going to be, top notch. And that's probably why he came up with the philosophy, don't try, because he probably is like, easily dissatisfied with, mediocre work and just being like, nah, it's not good enough, like I got to do better. How do I do better? Oh, don't try. That's when I do good. All right, cool. Because yeah, it's just very extremely critical with Moon, Saturn, and Venus all together. Venus being his ascendant lord, and not in good dignity. And so the first half of his life, Bukowski is kind of interesting because the first half of his life he did not do that great in writing. Anyway, he just had menial jobs. He worked at a post office. He drank a lot. He tried writing and failed and gave up for a while. That's Virgo. Virgo is just so critical on itself, and especially with its ascendant lord Venus being in Virgo. That's like so much self-criticism. Um, he's just like, I'm not gonna. I know I get it because I have Virgo moon, and Virgo moon is just like, you know, if you know Virgo anything, Virgo strong Virgo placements, they're gonna be critical. But believe you me, they are even more critical of themselves. And when they don't do a good job, they're just like, I suck. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. The world doesn't deserve this crappy stuff that I'm putting out. So Virgo can be very hard in that sense. Saturn as well. Saturn is coldness, it's doubt, it's fear, it's rejection. So he's feeling very restricted, very rejected first half of his life. And he's full of doubts and insecurity. He's just like, no, I can't do it. They rejected me. Rejecting a Virgo is like, that's hard on the Virgo. They're going to reject themselves like 10 times after you rejected them once. So, Uranus is opposite this Venus, which is interesting because it's his ascendant lord. So it's adding a lot of Uranian kind of independent thinking, brilliance, genius, out of the box. It's in the 11th house, 11th quadrant, and whole sign. So that's fully in the 11th. And Uranus kind of represents 11th house themes, thinking about society, thinking about big things, groups, networks, things of that nature, friends, communities. It's in Pisces, so very creative, Uranus. And this is also going to inform what kind of relationships he likes. Very picky, but at the same time, quirky and out of the box and artistic, creative type people, girls and friends and groups, as well as his personal tastes, alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, Uranus is the planet that represents this heightened awareness and stimulation, right? So strong Uranus contacts will create a need to be very stimulated. These type of people will want that kick in the butt to wake them up because Uranus is the great awakener. So they need to have this extra alertness that this kind of other people may not have with Uranus here. And Uranus is in retrograde, so it's a rebellious Uranus, not a Uranus that wants to play by the rules. Uranus retrograde definitely likes. I mean, Uranus is rebellious anyway. When it's retrograde, it's like, it's like breaking all the rules with a vengeance. It's like, give me some more rules that I can break because I'm just gonna break all of them. But yeah, that makes him very interesting, unique, dynamic, original, independent-minded, and quirky, and wanting all the quirky relationships, quirky stimulants, quirky stimulants. I think stimulants are just enough. We'll just leave it at that. Stimulants, alcohol. It is trying the ascendant, Venus, so that is one good thing. Giving bonifying the ascendant, helping the ascendant get strength. But then when he didn't receive success till his late 40s, early 50s. And so that's very obvious with his North Node in Scorpio and the ruler of Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio. So Mars is in great dignity here. It's angular, except for it doesn't do great in the 7th house. However, if you're going to be a leader or a boss, I'd say you can get away with Mars in the 7th house. It's just that it's not going to be good for relationships. It's not going to be good for equality, for equal relationships. It's good if you need to boss everyone around. There are better places like conjunct the MC or 10th house, whichever is, it depends on your charts if they're different. 6th house, 3rd house is all right. Ascendant is not great, but neither is the seventh house. But angular, and neither is the fourth house. Anyway, North Node conjunct Mars in Scorpio in the seventh house. Now this is much stronger position, so you can see why the second half of his life was much more successful, because he's no longer what the south node or the north node is going to activate whatever sign and planet it's in. So the ascendant and this debilitated Venus, right? So that's not nearly as strong as his seventh house, which is Mars in domicile, and 12th house of creativity. So it's activating the really great stuff for his artist work, and also like this quality, this certain quality that he has in his writing. When you're writing, when a person writes, they're still going to utilize their seventh house. It doesn't matter if they have, also 10th house. These angles are still going to get activated because there's still a relationship, and it's still like you're addressing the audience. When you're addressing the audience, it's invoking the seventh house. So there's a strong seventh house component, especially with him, and it's gonna bring in a lot of Mars and Scorpio. So like male sexuality, passion, drive, like this just quality. He was a controversial writer, but that's one of the things I think that made him so well talked about, both positively and negatively. And he was accused of sexism. I used to listen to a lot of Modest Mouse, and there's a lot of musical references to him, by the way, but they have a song about him, Charles Bukowski. And they say one of the verses, it's like, why is he such an asshole? That's Mars and Scorpio in the seventh house. Is Mars really coming out, right? So he has this mix of philosophy, wisdom, poetry, and general male, excessiveness. He's had a lot of like alcohol and women, like one night stands. That's very Mars and Scorpio in the seventh house, conjunct the North Node. I mean, relationships in general, Venus opposite Uranus. I mean, women drinking, all that stuff, debauchery, degeneracy. That's all going to come out. That's all going to be prominent. But he's got the Sun conjunct Jupiter and the strong Virgo placement. So he has this polarity. It's not all just like women and drinking. And I mean, that probably was a huge part of it, but it's also like Mercury and Neptune in Leo, and Venus and Saturn and Moon in Virgo. So like Virgo is very literary, it's very intellectual, it's very sharp mentally, and pure. And then Leo's got all this heart, right? There's so much heart when Leo is, planets in Leo, plus if Leo's in the fourth house, fourth whole sign house here, fourth and fifth. So it's like got a lot of heart, a lot of creativity, right? This abuse is coming into it. So yeah, I mean, definitely all comes together, I think. And if we look at his draconic chart, we can see even more. MC in Gemini, the second house, giving him a strong voice. Second house definitely relates to the physical voice, but there could still, you're still like, it's the house before Gemini. It's the second house is obviously the house before the third house, but they're related, right? So even in writing, voice, your voice, how they say I have my voice, I found my voice. It's still second house. Third house will be more has to do with the expression of, but the voice, the inherent quality of the voice comes through even in writing. I just wanted to point that out. Uranus is in Cancer. So again, that childhood abuse from his father, trauma. Neptune can be indicate trauma, but so can Uranus. They both can, right? So we're seeing two signatures of childhood trauma in his life. So that's difficult. Chiron is in Virgo, but it's pretty close. It's basically like conjuncting Jupiter out of sign, and then Venus is ascendant lord. So then more issues of like feeling like an outsider, wounded, rejected, pain, abuse, but also healing potential, healing, teaching as he learns to heal himself, as he evolves and grows. He can become the healer. Ascendant in Virgo over pretty much conjunct the moon by 2 degrees, and then south node also 0 degrees Libra. So that's basically accenting his moon in Virgo. Virgo moon is very refined. Like I have a Virgo moon, and it's a really, really, what is it? It's taking all the qualities of Virgo and internalizing them into the needs of the heart. So it creates a very, I don't know, pure quality, pure feeling inside, and a need to find that Virgo purity, which is excellent for things like writing, if you have a passion for it. I've written a lot. I was always a good writer, but it's not my calling, and that's the thing. Like you have to be, like he said, it has to come to you. It has to be like it has to choose you. So anyway, just relating myself into this as I can, because I have North Node in the first house, so I tend to always come back to me. Anyway. Pluto in the 28th degree of Scorpio. That's 7th house, but it's pretty much conjunct the 8th house cusp, even though it's out of sign. So 7th, 8th. So there's definitely intense relationships that are leaning towards intimacy, sex, sexuality, of course. I mean, his relationship with women is going to be very sexually oriented, right? There's going to be issues of power and control and desire and manipulation. Yeah. He did marry eventually. I think like he tried to marry, it didn't work out well, and then when he was older, he married. Yep. Mercury and Neptune in the 9th house, and Mercury especially because it's really conjunct the 9th house cusp in, well, Capricorn I guess would be the 9th whole sign house, but bringing in more religion and philosophy, publishing as well. 9th house deals with publishing, so that's significant. And then this trio of planets, well, stellium, I guess 10th house stellium, you could say. Sun conjunct the MC, very prominent Capricorn, as well as Jupiter, right? So that's, for somebody to achieve fame, notoriety, recognition, that's very prominent. Venus, and then Saturn in its own co-ruled sign of Aquarius. So Saturn rules the MC. It's in good dignity here. It's dispositing all these planets, including the moon in the 11th house cusp. So that's all very, very, very appropriate for a big famous career like Charles Bukowski had. Moon in Aquarius, air sign, in the 11th house. So probably a tendency to just, just making his mind bigger, more thinking about society. And a lot of his quotes were very, not just Jupiterian and wise, but very, very big-minded, right? I can't I see a lot of quotes online attributed to him. And they sound good. They make a lot of sense. Like, he has he's a lot of wisdom and perspective, and it's quite nice. And so that is reflected here. This is a very big-minded moon. And then North Node conjunct Mars again. Both his Marses are an excellent dignity, both in domicile, Scorpio and then Aries. That's in the 12th house. So again, for creativity, foreign lands, things like that, loss, yeah, all fodder for good writing material. He didn't. He looked like, if you look at his face, he looks pretty worn and beaten, worn out. Yeah, and then this Mars is over Chiron, emphasizing the outsider, the wounded, pain, rejection, things like that. And that through healing, he comes to be a teacher and healer. It's Chiron's journey. So I think all this comes together pretty well. Makes a lot of sense. Moon has a sextile, natal moon has a sextile to draconic Pluto, which again is good. It helps his writing out a lot. Pluto's very deep and powerful. It's just gonna, if you can incorporate Pluto into anything, it's gonna add tremendous depth. Of course, there's a great price to be paid when Pluto's making contacts to personal planets. Less so if it's an easy contact like a trine or a sextile, more so if it's a square. Right, so, and the square is to the semi-square is to the sun, so that's difficult. But anyway, already covered that. So that's Charles Bukowski, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share. Go to my website, macroastrology.com, or email me at macrogoalmachine to book a reading. And I suggest you do. My readings are good, and I give a lot into them. I'm very generous in my readings because I have Jupiter in the 7th house. So that's what that means. And as always, leave a comment about anything, and I will see you again soon. Thanks, bye.